Welcome to the Extraordinary Podcast, where we identify God's uncommon work in common life. Recognizing God's work requires intentionality, but articulating it motivates and inspires. Don't forget to subscribe to never miss an episode. In today's episode, I have a conversation with Sharon Stonehouse, where she shares a little bit about her life's journey, her professional journey, and how Jesus has used her passions throughout her life to glorify Him. So let's get into the conversation with Sharon. Sharon, thank you for being on our podcast today. We appreciate you taking the time to share your story a little bit. As we begin, can you tell us a little bit about your professional journey?
Well, during high school, my main classes were like at home economics, sewing, that kind of stuff. And then you get towards the end of the senior year, and I had done some typing, and those were typewriters, manual and electric, none of this keyboard stuff at that time. It's back in the early 70s. And I decided to take a shorthand class, and that was like learning a foreign language. And the first week, about half our class had dropped out, because it was a lot of work to learn these little symbols. And I was practically begging my parents to let me quit, and they kind of like, well, why don't you wait until the semester in January and we'll see how it goes. Well, by Christmas time, you have your theory done and you're working on speed. And one of the things we used to do was our church services, practice with the pastor's sermons. Yours I would never be able to keep up, and I must say, you have to listen. But anyway, so I had that. Well, then I graduated in 1971, and I decided to take a business class at Southeastern down in Keokuk. And I graduated out of that and was going to take the second year, and I'd come to Burlington because my sisters lived up here at the time, and had registered at the employment office. Well, they called me that they had this opening, the city of Burlington, the police department. So I went and interviewed, and they were looking for people that did shorthand. So that's really one reason how I got that job. Well, other things too, but shorthand was a big plus there. And it came in handy because my work started out in July of 72 and on the day shift. And then eventually I went to the second shift to work. And that was a whole different world. And they promised me a one-sided education, and that's about how it was. So, but anyway, it was different because once all the top people went home, it was a little more freer, and we got more work done, I think. But so I spent quite time on the second shift working there, and it was doing dictation. We did reports, typed, filed, a little bit of everything. So got things ready for court the next day, and met some very interesting people.
Now you work for the city of Burlington, the police department for a long time.
47 and a half years.
47 and a half years.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you stay so long?
That's a good question. I'd been there about 20 years, and I was thinking about doing something different, but my mom at that point, after my dad had died, moved here, and she'd really get upset anytime I mentioned about going somewhere else. I think she didn't want to be left alone because everybody else is scattered out in our family. And then one day I got to think about, well, I had vacation, or retirement benefits were pretty good if I kept going. So I just hung in there, and didn't feel like it was time to go yet because I had my goals to different things I wanted to do. And when I finally decided to retire, I had met all those goals, and it was just starting to get boring, and I was very tired, which I say it's normal if you work one job too long and don't switch out. So, but
for 47 and a half years, there must have been some fun things or exciting things with the job.
Things changed a lot. Technology changed a lot. I said we went from typewriters and I shared with a young friend how when I started working in the 70s, we had electric typewriters with the correction tape. That was a big thing. And she said, I have no clue what you're even talking about. Okay. Keyboards, computer age. That was a big thing that really helped. If we was doing reports, if you had to make corrections, you didn't have to retype. So the technology's really changed, like the computers and the phone systems, which I don't think we ever really understand this phone system, and different things like that.
Well, that's fun. That's from the 70s to here the 2020s.
2019 when I retired.
Yeah, we see a lot has changed in the
Yeah.
world of technology, and some for the good, some debatable, I guess. But being able to make corrections is, I
Yeah.
think, a very
Well,
positive
yeah.
change. So tell us a little bit about your family growing up. You talked about your mom and your
Okay.
sister a little bit.
Well, I tell people I grew up in the wilds of southeast Lee County in Iowa here. Our school system is really unique. It was 3 little communities, Argyle, Montrose, and Donaldson, that consolidated to one school system, Central Lee on Highway 218. That's the best way to explain it. But went to grade school in Argyle and rode a school bus. Yeah, fun time. Anyway, that's one thing I will not do is drive a school bus. And so anyway, the year that my older sister graduated, and I was in 2nd grade, and they consolidated to one high school. And by the time I got to 8th grade, the junior high had, and went to high school. It was unique because we lived on a farm a mile and a half from the high school, or less than that, and I had to ride a school bus almost 25 miles to get there. So it made a long day. But growing up, my parents lived through the Great Depression and World War II. They were farmers and didn't really have a whole lot. And there were 2 older children born during the Depression, one during World War II. And then I was like 10 years later, I was born and my younger brother was born. So the 3 older children married, and so my younger brother and I grew up with 10 nieces and nephews. So now I have all these greats, and I get people confused, I know, sometimes. So it's quite a family, but it was quite interesting. But we didn't have. My dad worked on a factory at a factory in Keokuk. We had one vehicle, and he took it to work. So we didn't have transportation like being on ball teams or that kind of stuff in the summer. We stayed on the farm and roamed all around there, and we worked there too. Had our chores to do, and it's a whole different life of what a lot of kids live now.
Did you have livestock on the farm?
Oh yeah, we had cows and pigs and dogs. Did have some chickens, but
I'm sure that was fun, but livestock's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Every single day,
Yeah.
and so that's a cool experience. Now, did you grow up in the church?
well, in New Boston, a little town, New Boston, Iowa, that's West Iowa, where I lived, there was a little Methodist church. That's where we grew up. If you had 12 people, you had a crowd. It was on like a circuit, and I keep thinking we had Sunday school and stuff, but it was mainly like in the summer when it was warmer and stuff, and you had people to work it. Like any church, if you got people to work it, it'll happen. And then one summertime, some people came to our door wanting us to come to Bible school, and it was the Montrose Nazarene Church. People there, that's how we got started, the Nazarene Church. We went to Bible school because they came and got us, took us home, and all my nieces and nephews lived in the area at the time. But then we really didn't go a whole lot because my dad wasn't a churchgoer. My mom, she stayed with the little Methodist church. But then 1973, my dad was really sick. It turned out to be cancer. And he made the acquaintance of the pastor from the Nazarene Church in Montrose. And he really liked the man. He was a humble guy. He dressed simple. And my dad really took to him. And later on, he told my mother that when he got well, they would go to that church. But that didn't happen. But the thing is that my dad had gallbladder surgery. My mom didn't understand if he had to go through all this, why he couldn't have dived in. And this pastor told my mom he wasn't ready to go. And so he had talks with him and stuff, and he was ready to go when he did die in December of 73. So.
Yeah, well, that's so then you grew up then more than Montrose Church and
It's a little country church in New Boston there.
Okay. So now over the years you have served in the church in various capacities.
Yeah.
Can you speak to a few of the ways that you've served?
I heard some people were making a list on this, but I won't say who they were. Some ladies I know. But when my mom moved up here, we started coming to this church in I think it was September of '74, and I just kind of got to know people, how things worked, and then after I did become a member and everything, they had me teaching Sunday school, but I finally had to get. I wasn't quite ready to do that yet, and I was having back problems, so I just couldn't. It was older girls. We had a good time, but it just didn't work out that time. But somewhere along there, had all these ladies that were expecting babies, and Dolores needed people in the choir, and I was working night shift. I said, well, I'm not a great singer, but I could sing some, and I could read music, and so I'd come out on my Wednesday night, my supper break, when they had choir practice, and if something came up I couldn't get away from work, I would be there, and so sang in the choir, and it was kind of fun. Yeah, I kind of liked it, and but then later on we went into, when they started doing big productions and wanted costumes, I went more into sewing costumes, and because I've been making curtains for the classrooms, for the kids' rooms, and kind of brighten them up a little bit, but I did sewing for these costumes, and that was the first year they suggested doing that for all the choir members. You got to be kidding me, and how much work. And the idea was we'd cut out the costumes for the different people, and they were to find somebody to sew them. But I had this vision, if you want to call it, of everybody arriving for the dress rehearsal with their costumes still in the sack. So I said, okay, we need to do some sewing projects. So we set up in the room down here, had different sewing machines, and women just came in on Saturdays, and we sewed these costumes up and got them done. So
yeah, that's interesting of how your talents were used, particularly with sewing, and kind of jumped right in. But you taught Sunday school with kids over the years.
And Sunday school, children's church, went down to the kinder church. To organize people to do that. And that time we were writing our own curriculum because they didn't have materials too much. All kinds of things. Let's see, what else? And of course I'm on the missions thing, and somehow I end up on the church board. And that'll be an interesting thing. And I worked some district. Lori Miller taught me and helped them with the lay retreat. When they did that, I did a lot of the clerical work. See, like they wanted clerical work, that I was a person that helped out. Did Sunday school records for a time, or the forms, but they had a computer at home.
Well, one of the things that sticks out to me with your work at the City of Burlington and your service in the church is you understand the value of commitment. You're not flaky, I guess. I mean, after 47 and a half years, I think commitment is a good word or committed is a good word to describe you. Can you speak to the value of commitment, whether we're talking spiritually or just otherwise?
This kind of makes you feel like you belong. You got a part in this. I know you talk to people about being members of the church, and they don't think it's really necessary, but it is. It's you kind of like you belong, and you're helping out. There's a need. A lot of things I helped out with maybe didn't work so good, but things did, and it's just kind of, I don't know. I always call it perseverance. Hang it in there, and sometimes that's not what it is. When things just don't go the way you think they should, kind of reality and expectations don't match up.
and that's a great point, because we'll find that wherever we go. We'll find disappointment.
Oh yeah, it's just not in the church; it's everywhere.
And the police department is an example. I'm sure there are frustrations that arose.
Very negative atmosphere.
And unfortunately, I'm sure that you don't always see the best sides of society when you work in law enforcement type stuff. But when you're not committing, I think it allows for selfishness to, well, what do I get out of it? Which isn't the point of the church.
Yeah.
Right? Jesus didn't create the church so we could be selfish. He created the church so we could live out the selfless reality that he has called us to live. So, because I've just been so inspired recently by the fact that Jesus tells us he came not to be served, but to serve. And when we commit, that's a way of removing our selfishness so we can serve others. So,
yeah, I have to watch. Sometimes people try to push me into things. You do good at this. Well, but is it something I really should be doing? And I know one time we had different ministries out here you could sign up for, and people sign up for all kinds of things, but it's like if you do too many, then you can't really be involved and do good. Do what you should be doing, and I start to feel that way myself now. pulled apart. Because I know during the pandemic, everybody, because that was right after I retired, and I was telling somebody, I said, I really didn't mind not having to go out and do a whole lot, because it kind of gave me time to rest, and I got busy sewing face masks, but I just kind of, I didn't really bother me a whole lot. I mean, people getting sick, I know people that got that, and problems.
That's a good point. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. A lot of times, our passions, Jesus has given us passions to use for Him, and when we serve Jesus within our passions, we're energized by that.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure if sewing is a passion of yours, but
it more used to be. I used to make all my clothes and all kinds of things. But now it's kind of, unless it's something fun. I mean, I'm not going to be starting a quilt. I don't do quilting. Hand sewing's not my thing. And I worked some with caravans. With Kathy Clark got me into doing a sewing project, and we made all kinds of. The kids like to do Christmas stockings, had all the scraps, and some was hilarious how they'd sew. But a little practice, they might get there.
Yeah, but that's a way that your passion could be used for Jesus, which wasn't necessarily draining as other things.
And so anyway.
Now one of the things I want to make sure we highlight today is your involvement with missions. That seems to be a passion of yours, and a lot of times when you work with the kids, you talk about missions.
That's what we're doing.
Can you tell us how you first got involved in missions?
Well, I think I first got involved helping with the kids. The lady that was in charge of the mission lessons needed people to come in to kind of, they did it one lesson a month, and just to be there, to help with the kids. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and then reading the books and things, and then didn't really do a whole lot except to help with the kids, because I was doing other things too at that time. But then, of course, I needed somebody to type the minutes, so there I am, and still working with the kids. And there's other things now, but it's still made me work with the children, because the curriculum we do now, it's like a 5-year rotation, different parts of the world. We're doing Africa now, then we're going to Asia Pacific, and they have lessons that it tells about the different things the Nazarene Church does, like compassionate ministry, the crisis care kits, and the school packs, and different other work and witness type things that they do. And right now we're working with the crisis care kits. The kids love putting those things together. They're professional packers.
Can you explain to us what the crisis care kits are?
Okay, they're the kits that consist of, like, there's necessary things for emergency, like hand towels, shampoo, soap, toothpaste, 3 toothbrushes, which the children always ask, why 3? I don't know. That's what maybe they drop in the mud. But combs and clippers, Band-Aids, and the most important thing is a little stuffed toy. And they put these in a bag. 6 of these bags go in a banana box. We pack it all up. Eventually they go out to Maryland, where the warehouse is, and they distribute them on other parts of the world, like now Ukraine area, and even in the United States you have hurricanes, earthquakes. Anytime you're out of your home, they send these packs out, and quite interesting. Now I'm trying to get some older ladies. Instead of buying stuff, they want to learn how to pack these. So that's what we were doing yesterday. So.
So yeah, I cut you off there. Was there anything else with missions that?
No, then we do the kids do backpacks. And we have this Alabaster Fund, which the money goes to pay for buildings on different locations to help people out. And I always try to get the kids to do an offering for that, but I always encourage them to do something to earn the money, not just grandma or somebody giving them $5 or $10. So they do pretty good. This year we had socks they had to fill up, so it's different. Which is something I sewed.
So that's like I said, you have a passion for missions. If someone wanted to get involved with missions, do you have any recommendations for them?
Well, it's all kinds of things. Around here, the big thing is the sweet corn sale. You can help with that. I'm not a picker because my knees don't allow that, but it can help sale. And now that I'm retired, whenever we do it, I can come out. Don't have to worry about vacation time. And sometimes vacation time of the corn doesn't quite collide or meet together. And there's all kinds of things because they have like these working witness trips. I'm not a traveler. I do not really care to travel too much, but some people are, and you go to different areas and do projects, but get to see some of the sites and stuff, and they got some things planned there. But there's all kinds of things you get involved in, I guess. Depends if you want to go far and wide, but locally,
I think you bring a good point that there are local opportunities and national, even global opportunities as well. But even things like, there's books that missions books. Just there are simple ways for people if they just want to kind of test the water to see what it's about and hear stories.
We have missionary speakers. I always like to hear some of them, and some of the books, the older ones that they talk about, some of the older missionaries, how things they went through and are still going through in different areas. So things have changed there too.
and missionaries, I know we try to have at least one a year, if not sometimes two, to share with us what they're doing around the world. And we've had some stateside and international missionaries come in, and which is it's fun to get the different perspectives, and hopefully inspiring for us to get more involved. So. Well, that's I think it's important as I glean from our conversation for people to recognize their passions, because you shared a lot of your different gifts from sewing to your clerical work to singing. Even though you said you're not a great singer, you could read music and you could be.
Oh yeah, that's another.
Yeah, but also just your time. Now that you're retired, you said with Sweet Corn you have more flexibility to help sell. Those are precious commodities, time and our gifts. That Jesus can use for his kingdom, and your years of commitment and service to the community and to Jesus is inspiring to me, and I'm confident I hope it's inspiring and challenging to people who listen to this.
I think so.
But is there anything else you'd like to share today? I didn't want to cut you off, or if there's anything that I didn't cover.
Sometimes like working with the kids, we've been talking about praying lately. And even though it's just been children up at the altar praying, I can't go up and kneel anymore because my knees don't allow that. But I told them, you talk to your parents if they feel comfortable with you doing that. And but it's amazing some of the kids, you ask them how many parents read the Bible with them at home, and it's kind of like blank stare. And how many pray with them. So I encourage, because I always said at work, with the police department, and here. When you know where the kids live and how they live, you know why they act the way they do sometimes. And you meet their parents and grandparents in my case. But we only have them for a little bit here, and the parents are a big influence. And the kids that are really involved, I can tell because their parents are here and they're involved. So get your whole family involved, Yeah,
that's a great challenge. Parents are responsible to teach their kids. They're the spiritual leaders for their children. And it's a holistic. Jesus wants the whole family, not just part of it, or even not even part of your life. He wants your whole life. So. Yeah.
When I had Sunday school older kids, I always tell them, accept the Lord, work for Him when you're young, save your parents a lot of problems and grief. And some of them have done pretty good. Some of them I wonder about, but and every now and then I still run into some kids because we used to have a lot of bus kids, as we call them, whose parents didn't come. And one time we had like a stuffed alligator. They had to pretend they were walking. And I know Taylor Johnson was one of the helpers at that. And I still have a couple old kids that I remember walking the stuffed alligator out there.
Those are fun memories to think about those things. And so that was great. So, well, thank you for being a guest on our podcast today, sharing your story. It was inspiring and encouraging to me, and I know it will be that way to others. So thank you for being here on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us for this podcast. Be on the lookout for how God does uncommon work in common life, and please subscribe to never miss an episode.